Hello Internet. Today I want to take a look at using C#'s new tuple-based switch statement. And so to do that, we're going to write FizzBuzz. If you're not familiar what FizzBuzz is, it's like a classic programming problem. It's used very often in interviews. And basically the idea is you're given a sequence of numbers. So starting at, say, 1 and just counting up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. When you hit 3, you want to print fizz. When you hit 5, you want to print buzz. Or sorry, not 3 and 5. When the number is divisible by 3, you print fizz. When it's divisible by 5, you print buzz. And when it's divisible by 3 and 5, you print fizz buzz. And so I want to write a switch statement, or I guess I want to write a program that can do that. And really, it's just a set of if statements and then some use of the modulus symbol, which lets you get the remainder of a function. But I want to try experimenting with switches because there's some new-ish. It's not really new anymore. It's been out for a few years at this point, I think. But it's not a feature that I've used a lot, where you can provide multiple parameters to your switch statements. And so that's what I want to play with. So we're going to create a new function. Let's do it all static. Again, we're not going to be honoring a lot of great programming things, but we're going to be trying. So we're going to return a string. So either the number, if it's not divisible by 3 or 5, or one of FizzBuzz, fizz, or buzz, depending on what the result is. So get output string, I guess, and we'll just give it an int. So int comes in, string comes out, and we want to do some sort of switch that is going to return something. Now, typically, you would do like switch of I, for example. You do switch I believe. If I'm remembering correctly, and I have some notes here if I forget, but you put the actual argument on the left-hand side in this case. And so you would do I, and I'm going to do I mod 3 and I mod 5. And so our switch statement now has 2 arguments. Did I do this wrong? Maybe. Hold on. What's wrong? Okay. So their example uses a lambda expression like this. Why does that work? And this doesn't. Weird. Okay. I don't actually know what's going on there. We're going to add a default here, and that's just going to return i.toString. So we're just going to stringify our input. Oh, it doesn't even know what the switch is because we're not using the switch. Have to get rid of that. Oh, okay. So we can't use default because that's not supported, but we can use this wildcard symbol. So the syntax appears to be different. And you do this. So if you're used to normal switch statements, it's not like that at all. This would be a good point for me to say I am not super familiar with this. It didn't like when I did that return. Oh, okay. So what we're doing here, what I'm doing here is replacing this with a lambda function. There's a problem with this though, because I'm returning from that function something. And that's one, not needed. But if I do that, then this function doesn't return anything. So I wonder if I can add my return statement up here. That might work. Or it might get mad at me. We can remove that semicolon. I don't think that's needed. And then down here, we just need the semicolon to terminate that switch statement. And so this looks super complicated, and it's taking me longer than it probably should, but that's because I've never used this feature before. And yeah, that's honestly the primary reason. So we're gonna try this, and what this should do is mod 3 and give us a remainder of I divided by 3, and then divide I by 5 and give us the remainder of that. And now we have both of those coming into our switch statement, and we can use both of them to switch on our thing. So just to get started here, I'm going to remove hello world and do a for int I equals 0. I is less than, let's say, 20. We need to get up to 15 at least, because it needs to be divisible by 3 and 5 to print FizzBuzz. And so we're not going to get that until we hit 15. So we should do this, and then do a get output string of I. And we're just going to write that out to the console. So console.writeLine, like this. And so this looks kind of gross at the moment, but this should clean things up. I'm not suggesting in any way by doing this that this is the correct or best way to do this. There's a lot of ways you can do this, and they're all pretty good. This just felt like a really useful way to kind of test out this switch statement. And it doesn't like this because I'm missing a semicolon on line 9. Oh, well, duh. We have to increment our for loop. That's kind of a thing that we need. Let's try that again. There we go. And so if we did this right, we should see from 0 to 19. This 20 is not inclusive. So it should go 0 all the way up to 19. And so now we just need to actually do the problem because we hadn't yet. And so there are two things coming in here. Our wildcard matches both. I believe this is also valid. No. Oh, all right. So it's already been handled by that. So if we want to do FizzBuzz, the first pattern we have to match is going to be the fizz and the buzz. It has to match both first, because otherwise, if we're just doing one divisibility rule, if we try to check for both of them second, the order of operations is going to mean that that first one gets triggered and we never see that double comparison. So we need to compare both I mod 3 and I mod 5, and we expect them both to be 0. So I should be able to do, I think it looks like this is the syntax. And then I just want to print FizzBuzz. And we shouldn't even need a semicolon, I don't think. How does, oh, okay. These statements are supposed to be comma delimited. That's interesting. It's not something that I use a lot. And then for the next fizz and buzz individually, it doesn't matter which one comes first and which comes second. I'm going to do from left to right. So divided by 3 is going to be fizz. And so we don't care what the other option is. We're just going to leave an underscore there. But we have to make it divisible by 3, which means the remainder has to be 0. And so if that's the case, then we'll get fizz. And whatever divided by 5 returns, whatever the remainder of that is, we know it's not divisible by 5, but it could be any other result. We don't care. It's divisible by 3, so we're going to print fizz. And then for this one, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do buzz instead. And so we can just put the wildcard there and put a 0 there. And then we finally have this one, which is just going to catch everything that falls through. Based on that syntax, this works, where we just put them both there. But by just using an underscore, it seems to just catch everything. That's like the default case in your normal switch statement. And so with this, we should be able to rerun this and get a slightly different result. So if I run .NET Run now, we will see FizzBuzz for 0, divisible by 0, because 0 divided by 3 and 0 divided by 5 is 0. So that works. We have fizz, and then we have for buzz fizz as 6, so 6 divided by 3, and it keeps going up. And then between 14 and 16, we have FizzBuzz. So this seems to work. And so there we go. In almost no lines at all, we have a working FizzBuzz program, and we could make this smaller if we wanted to. We don't need this other function. I could just as easily move this up into that for loop, and it would just work. But I thought this would be an interesting way to kind of explore this feature of C#. Hopefully it's a program that you're somewhat familiar with, and if you're not, I would recommend implementing this, even if it's just with if statements. Honestly, I would probably start there and then consider something like this later. But this problem is something that is going to probably come up, especially if you are still in school or doing something like that. For entry-level interviews, this is something that you'll probably end up seeing, or at least being expected to kind of be familiar with. So that's all that I have for this. So I guess I'll leave it here. But if you're actually using this and have a use case that isn't just this, I would love to see it, because like I said, I haven't used this. And so I'm not entirely sure like what a good use of this actually looks like, if that makes sense. I understand why that would be useful, but it seems more functional programming than object-oriented, and that's interesting to me. So I'll leave it here. I guess I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. But if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, consider subscribing. I try to put out new videos as often as I can. I'm trying to get back to a video every weekday. It'll probably still be a bit before I get back to that pace, because that takes a long time. But if you like it, consider subscribing. Anyway, that's my shill for the video. Anyway, I'll leave it here. So I guess until next time, see you, internet.